Hello and welcome. This is the second video on the Parahack's Let's Learn JavaScript series, and in this episode I'll be showing you all how to set up your environment properly to run JavaScript. Let's get it. First question: where do we write code? JavaScript is a programming language and we write it. Where do we write this code? Well, the simple answer to that is anywhere you can write in your laptop, in your desktop, in your phone. If you can type anything there, you can type JavaScript in there. So it doesn't matter. One of your fancy note-taking apps or even MS Word if you want. You can write JavaScript code there, but they are dedicated environments created for us to write JavaScript code. And this dedicated environment gives us the best experience and gives us all the tools we need, not just to only write, but to also execute these JavaScript codes. And I'm going to be showing you two types. I'm going to be showing you the browser's console and I'll be showing you IDE. So IDE stands for Integrated Developer Environment, and we'll be talking more about that later on. But first of all, you're going to look at the browser's console. Now, what I want you to do is to open any browser you have. I'm using Chrome. You can use Edge, you can use Firefox, you can use Brave, whatever browser. Just open it up and type this command, Control Shift I. And if you're on Mac, it would be Command Shift I. But if you don't want to type the command down, you can also use your mouse. So you can just right click and then look for inspect. So both of them works, just the command is just kind of a shortcut. So you can just click on inspect and some stuff pop off. It pops up at the left for me, it might pop on the bottom for you, it might pop on the top, it might pop on the right, it might pop on the left, but it's something comes up and it's called the developer console or inspect tool. Now there are a lot of things here showing. I'm seeing a bunch of things here that you might probably be seeing and might be confusing you. First of all, what I'm going to do is to make this full screen so that we can see it properly. So I'll just click here and go to dock side and I'll just a new window, right? Now we have a complete new window created for us for this inspect tool on its own, and we have a lot of things here. Look at the top bar. Top bar, we see elements, we see console, we see source, network, performance, so on and so forth. The one you want to go to is the console, so click on the console and a bunch of things are red and popping up. I'm just going to cancel here so that this other window goes away. And if you're also having this window show up, you can just click on this cancel button right here. It goes away and you see we have a lot of things popping off here. And the reason why all these things are popping up is because of the website I was on was logging things out to the console. Yours might not be popping out these exact things, might be popping up some other things. If it's popping up anything at all, you can clear it all by just clicking on this little clear console button or icon right here. Click on here and everything will be cleared just like that. Now the reason why I'm showing you this console is because of in this console you can write and execute JavaScript code. Remember in the last video I said that JavaScript runs directly in our browser, so we can actually write JavaScript code on this console and we can run the JavaScript code right here and it will give us our value. So for example, I can write 1 plus 2 and click enter, we see 3. Now this is not a calculator, but it's actually the JavaScript runtime doing this calculation for us and telling us that 1 plus 2 is equal to 3. And I can do other types of calculations here. I can say 10 times 2 is 20, and by clicking enter it executes that code and that's 20 is the answer and it gives us. Again, it's not a calculator, don't use this as a calculator. You can if you want, but that's not what it's meant for. But yeah, we can actually execute JavaScript code. We can run it, we can write as much JavaScript code as we want, and we can execute it and it always gives us an answer. But this is not the ideal way of doing it. It works here, it's fine, we can go on, I can teach you stuff, you can do with the console, it works, but it's not the ideal way of doing it. Nobody is writing professional JavaScript code in the console. It just doesn't work that way. So the second way I'm going to show you is the integrated developer environment or integrated development environment, the IDE. Now that's just fancy word for text editor, because of these IDEs are basically just text editors created specifically for writing code. Now there are a bunch of them out there. There's Sublime Text, there's Brackets, there's Atom, there's IntelliJ, there's VS Code, and there's a bunch of them. But the most popular one and the one we'll be using on in this series is called VS Code. And you don't have to use VS Code if you don't want to, but I would advise you to use VS Code because that's what I would be using, and so that you can have exactly the results that I am having. I would recommend that you use VS Code, and anybody probably would also do the same. VS Code is really that popular, and it has a lot of tools for us that we can use that we would be using in this series. So yeah, most definitely go for VS Code. This is the VS Studio Code website. It's not VS Studio Code, it's Visual Studio Code, for short VS Code, and that's why we call it VS Code. But this is their website, and as you can see, you can easily download it for any operating system. I'm using a Windows, so if I click on this download for Windows, it will download, but I already have it installed already, so I'm not going to do that. So whatever operating system you have, you can download for Mac, Windows, Linux. They have other downloads that you can use. So yeah, Visual Studio Code, just get it, download it, install it, run it on your system, and you should see something like this when you open it. Now yours might not look exactly like this because of the theme. Now mine has been on my system for some while. I've played around, I like fancy things, so I'd added some things, I've removed some things, I've changed my colors and changed my icons, and I've just made it me. I've made it. That's one nice thing you can do with Visual Studio Code. You can customize it to your liking, and I've done mine to my liking, so yours will not look exactly as mine, but they would operate the same way exactly. So don't be bothered about that, right? And if I click on this explore icon right here, so mine is on the right, yours would be on the left. I moved mine to the right for some reason, but what I want you to do is to click on this icon, and now what I have right here is called a workspace, right? I have this Let's Learn JavaScript workspace. You probably won't have this workspace. How you get a workspace is by simply opening a folder directly in VS Code. I'm going to show you two ways of doing that. I'm going to do it with the terminal, and I'm going to do it with the UI. So let's try one with the terminal. I have moved over to my file explorer because I want to create a new file. I want to essentially create a new workspace for me to work on. And I'll just click on new folders, and I'll call this workspace. Right, and I want to open this workspace in Visual Studio Code. The terminal way is to basically right click and open a terminal on it. So I have multiple terminals. You might have the default one, command line or whatever. I'm going to use the git bash, and I can just run one command, and the command is code, code, space, and then a dot, right? Code, space, and then a dot. And then when you've done that, you just have to execute that command, which is we'll use enter to execute it. And once we execute it, it's going to spin up Visual Studio Code. Now I have two instances of Visual Studio Code running, and on this one we have a workspace called workspace. As you can see right here, workspace is the workspace that we have opened on this editor. That's how you open a workspace using the terminal. The second way is by using the Visual Studio Code UI itself, which is probably going to be the easiest way for most people. And the way we're going to do it is, for example, if we didn't have a workspace, or we wanted to open a different workspace, we could just go to this more icon right here, or menu icon. Yours will probably be on the left, and you click on it. And once you click on it, a bunch of other things will pop up. You go to file. When you over file, you see a bunch of other options will pop again, and we can choose from this bunch of options. And you can see we have open file, and then we also have open folder. We also have open workspace from file. The one we're going to go with is open folder. So if you click on open folder, you can basically click on any folder, and when you click on that folder, it's going to be opened as the workspace for you. So for example, I have this workspace folder. I can just click on it again and select that folder. And when I select that folder, that will be the workspace. So select, and bam, nothing changed because that was the previous workspace. But if you had chosen a new folder, that would become a new workspace. So now that you know how to create an open workspace, how do we actually create files? Because of it, in these files that we would be writing our JavaScript code. Well, with VS Code, all we need to do is to just over our workspace name. So this is the Let's Learn JavaScript workspace, and I'll use my mouse to over it, and we have all these icons pop up. We have new file, we have new folder, we have the refresh, and we have the close collapse folder. The one we want is the new file. We'll click on new file, we have this thing pop up, we have to write the name of the file. The name we'll be going with is app, but we can't just say app and click enter. If we do that, Visual Studio Code and also the browser doesn't know what type of file this is. We need a way to tell them that this is a JavaScript file. And the way we do that is by using extensions. In programming, basically, when we want to create a particular file for a particular language, we need to add the extension of that language to the file. And the way we add extensions is by using dots and then the name of the extension. And the name of JavaScript files is JS. So anytime you want to create a JavaScript file, the name and then .js, because that JS extension is what tells not just Visual Studio Code but the browser that this is a JavaScript file. So I'll go with JS, and I have this nice JavaScript icon pop up. I do not know if it will pop up for you. I set mine to pop up like this, and I installed some things. If you want to know how I configured my Visual Studio Code, let me know in the comments, and I'll probably do a video on how I got mine to look like this. But for now, just go with whatever default you get. So when you write the name app.js, click on enter. Now you have a JavaScript file opened, and I have GitHub Copilot popping up here. Don't have to be bothered if you don't have Copilot in your editor, just ignore it. Now we have JavaScript file here. We can actually write JavaScript code. So let's have another example, but the same thing, very similar to what we ran on the console. 2 plus 1, enter. Nothing happens. Yeah, and the console, it executes immediately we clicked on enter, but on the text editor it doesn't, because of we need a way to actually execute this. The text editor cannot execute it. It can allow us to write this really quick. As you can see, it comes with these colors, and it's very nice environment that we can actually write this code compared to the console. But these IDEs, they can't actually run the code. You need to run it in somewhere that is able to run the code, and the place that we can run JavaScript is the browser. We can run JavaScript on the browser, and one way we can do this is to create an HTML file, right? Link this JavaScript to the HTML file, open that HTML file on the browser, and run the JavaScript code, and we'll be able to see all the results that we are doing here on the browser. But if you ask me, that's a bit of a long route, and we are not really focusing on HTML. So as I said, I want this JavaScript series of course to be isolated from HTML, CSS, and I don't want to actually have to do anything with them in this course. So the way we're actually going to be running JavaScript is in this SIG format. Now, Visual Studio Code has a feature that makes it stand out from the rest, though some of them do have this feature, but Visual Studio Code definitely has the largest marketplace. And the marketplace I'm talking about is the marketplace of extensions. You can install different extensions into your Visual Studio Code to give it this extra benefits and extra power. So if you need a particular thing that Visual Studio Code does not by default implement or give to you, you can search for the extensions on the extension marketplace, and you can find people that actually build this and build it for free, and you can install it and it gets added to your Visual Studio Code editor, and you can use it. So you can easily customize your editor to your liking. And the extension tab is going to be on your left, mine is on my right, and it's this little icon right here, and you can hover as you see extensions. You click on it and you see a bunch of extensions pop up. Now they'll be giving you recommended extensions. I have installed a bunch of extensions myself. You probably yourself would not have installed anything if your editor was just installed and downloaded. But the one that I want you to search for is called Quokka. 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 And it's Quokka.js. It's right here. I'll click on it for you. You see, this is what I'm talking about. Quokka.js from wallaby.js. Now make sure that it's exactly this, because as you can see, we have a bunch of things popping up here. When I wrote Quokka, we have this Quokka support for Quokka, we have this Quokka status bar button, we have this Quokka syntax, blah blah blah. But the one you want is this one, this Quokka, this one that has above 3 million downloads. And when you are here, you just click on the install button. I've already installed mine. That's why you're seeing this able and uninstall. But for you, if you have not installed it before, you will see an install button. You click on it, wait for it to install, and then we can continue. Now, the reason why we are installing this Quokka is because of it allows us to do something, as I said, that was pretty sick, right? It's very sick because it's just really nice and comfortable, especially for the kind of thing that we want to be doing. It allows us to run JavaScript code directly in the editor, like the way we did it in the console. So that's just very, very convenient. And we don't have to be going back to the browser to run the code to make sure it works. We can just write it directly in the editor and it works. And that's just one feature that makes me want to use Visual Studio Code, and also makes me want to use Quokka because of it allows us to do this. Now, traditionally, if you're building a web application, you probably won't be needing to be doing this because of you always have the browser at your side, but we don't want to really be messing going back and forth from editor to browser. We're trying to learn. Yeah, we're trying to learn, and Quokka would enable us to do this in a far more efficient manner. So just make sure it's installed. And once it's installed, we need to run it on this file. We have our app.js file there. We want to execute JavaScript code that is written here. Now, how do we actually run Quokka? We're going to have to write down a particular command, right? We don't actually write it down, we just have to type it. And the command is Ctrl-Shift-P. Now, again, if you're Mac, it's going to be Command-Shift-P, and you have to type this down at the same time. Press them down at the same time. So Ctrl-Shift-P, and you should have this thing pop up, right? Now, I'm going to remove it again, so we'll do this together one more time. Ctrl-Shift-P. Now, I didn't tap Control, then tap Shift, then tap P. I pressed Control, kept my finger on it, pressed Shift, kept my finger on it, and then pressed P. That's why this pops off. And when this pops off, I want you to search for Quokka. And when you search for Quokka, look for the one that says Start on Current File. It'll probably be the first one that comes up. Start on Current File. And click that one. Right? You click this. When you click it, you give it a second. The output terminal should pop up. Now, I'm just going to close this sidebar by clicking here twice to get it out of the way. And you should have this little to showing here Quokka app.js, and yours should probably show like Electron. Mine is showing Node and the version of Node that I'm running. Now, Quokka would actually be able to run on our application, but so let's give this another example. So we'll say const. Now I'm declaring a variable here. You don't have to be bothered by this. I say const sum is equals to 2 plus 1, right? And I click on enter. Nothing runs. Now, I want to know the solution to that equation. I can just write sum. And now you see right here, I don't know if you can see it. Let me increase my editor. You can see 3 right here. 2 plus 1 is 3. And Quokka knows this, and it automatically runs 3 for us. It doesn't even need for us to save this file, to launch it somewhere, run it somewhere. No. It knows that this is what we want. And when we output sum, it gives us 3. And we can change this from 1, and we can say 10, right? It gives us 12 because of 10 plus 2 is 12. And remember, you can see the red lines that pop off when I remove this second number for the addition. It says cannot access sum before initialization, and that error is simply because of sum equals to 2 plus nothing is not a valid JavaScript code. It's not valid, and it's going to throw an error. And using Quokka, you know exactly where an error occurred because of it. It pops this red line in front of you. So when following this course, if you made an error, Quokka will let you know, right? So sometimes a lot of beginners will make errors and they wouldn't know where the error came from. But in our case, we won't have that because of we're using Quokka, and Quokka will pop a red line in front of you. You know that, oh, this is where I made the mistake, and then you can watch the video again, and then you can see where the mistake happened, and then you can correct it. So that's another nice thing that Quokka gives us, is all this error popping up. And the standard way of actually printing out outputs in JavaScript is not just by typing out sum and seeing the results magically happen. Like in our example right here, we just have 2 plus 10, and then in the next line we wrote sum, which was the name of the variable, and the result popped up, which was 12. In standard JavaScript, it doesn't work this way. The way we are going to be doing it, because of I would like for you to have muscle memory and learn all these things. So we're going to be using console log. We're going to say console.log, and then we'll put sum in here. And Coca knows that we're trying to log something out, and it gives us 12. Now the reason why we're using console, or the reason why we would use console in a normal scenario, is because of when we were running this, we'll most likely be running this in the browser. In a normal scenario, we're running this in the browser, and we want to see the results of sum, and browser doesn't know what we want to see the results of. It doesn't. Now we can have like 1,000 variables, and the browser is not just going to automatically pop out all those 1,000 variables results. We just want to see the result of sum, and the way we do that is by telling the browser to log out the value of sum in the console. So in that little place that I showed you in the past, you just say console.log sum, and if we run this on the browser, the value of sum, which is 12, will be logged out on the console. Now I hope you guys understood everything that I said. If you have any issue with anything, maybe installing Visual Studio Code, or installing Quokka, or running Quokka, or running the console on the browser, or anything, just let me know in the comment section. I'm there to reply to you 100% of the time. And if by any chance I don't reply, or I don't reply early enough, somebody else will reply to that question. So just make sure that you state the question down in the comments, and you definitely get help. And the next video in this series, we're going to be looking at JavaScript variables. So I already showed you one right here, the example of sum. That's a variable, and I'm showing you more about JavaScript variables, showing you all the types of ways we can declare variables and all the things we can do with JavaScript variables. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Make sure that you are available for that. Make sure that you turn on your notification so you get notified once that video drops. So make sure you guys keep on practicing. Make sure you guys keep on researching. Like this video if you liked the video, and subscribe if you want to see more content from me and from Parahack. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.